Hi, I'm Denise Griffitts, and this is your partner in Success Radio. And today I welcome back to the show Rick Yvanovich. When he was here last, we talked about thriving in what we called the new Renaissance. I know there's different ways that people pronounce it, but I call it Renaissance. So, how do we navigate and succeed in a world that's constantly changing? Today, we're talking about that conversation, but one step further. And it's not just about adapting to the world around us, it's about taking ownership of our future and asking a bigger question. Are we simply building a career or are we intentionally building a life? And this episode is brought to you by the Rehearsal Studio. And the fact is, you sound different than you think. I know I did. The first time I heard my own voice, I about cried. So here's something I tell podcasters all the time. You have no idea how you actually sound. Not really. You hear yourself in your head, but not the way your listeners hear you. The pacing, the energy, the moments you talk over a guest or lose the thread. The Rehearsal Studio fixes that. And my podcast module lets you practice out loud on mic against an AI that responds like a real guest. And then it breaks down exactly how you showed up. So you can go find it at therehearsalstudio.app. Now back to my guest, Rick Yvanovich. Rick, welcome back. I'm really glad you're here again today. And when we talked last time, we had a great conversation about what we call the new Renaissance. I always stumble on that word, and what it takes to thrive in a world that is changing so quickly. So today I want to take that conversation in a slightly different direction. And that's this. For generations, we've been taught to build a career, get the education, find the job, climb the ladder, earn more, achieve more, and keep moving forward. But here's the question I want to explore with you today. What if building a successful career and building a fulfilling life are two very different things? So, Rick, good morning. Welcome back. I'm excited to chat with you.
Thanks for having me again, Denise. I must have done something right for you to invite me back again. All right. Now, before we start, I'd like to remind people about a core belief that I hold dear. And that is we all have the potential to be architects of change. In this world of constant transformation, our task isn't just to keep up, it's to shape the path forward. Every day, our actions, whether they're big or small, they do shape our future. And as we discuss stuff today, Denise, I want everybody listening to remember this. You are your own brand, and every decision you make is part of the unique story you are crafting. How you react, how you adapt, and how you innovate will define your story and your legacy. So, as we dive into our conversation today, let's not just think about adapting to change, but about how we can define it. As we're not just participants, we are the catalysts in this ever changing business as unusual world. So let's get on to your first question, Denise. You said, are we um, building a career or are we building a life? Um, it's a good question because I believe that we're conditioned to build a career. Really, for most of our working lives, we're encouraged to think about career progression. I came from that generation where you were taught to, study hard, do well at school, you know, go through to university, get a good degree, get a good job, and just keep your head down and work, work, work. So that's all part of the career progression. What's the next job? What's the next role? What's the next promotion? What's the next salary increase? What do you need to do to get one step up that ladder? But a successful career doesn't automatically create a successful or even a fulfilling life. So I think we need to broaden the question from what do I want to achieve professionally to what kind of life am I actually trying to build? How does that land with you, Denise?
Well, and it's part of what I was thinking about while you were talking, and that is, can someone be highly successful professionally and still feel like something is missing? And frankly, I'm noticing that as people get older and they've gone through their career path, they've built something that is successful, but they hate it. They're done. They don't want to keep doing what they've been doing just because it works for them. So I think my question is, how do we decide what success means for us personally and professionally, and how do we meld them together?
That's a really good question. I'm going to pick up on your point that, can someone be, um, have maybe what society deems to be a successful career. They've got all the trappings of success. They've got the job title, they might have the corner office, they got the car, they got all the trappings of success, but maybe they're not happy. They feel empty. And in the coaching that I do, and I tend to historically coach high achievers or super achievers, it's that literally all of them have made some incredible achievements, and on the other hand, literally none of them are happy. So the the measure of how we measure success is maybe indoctrinated to us. It's maybe a job title, it's how much money you're earning, what company you're working for. Is it a great big listed, multi-billion dollar global thing? The status that you have. Um, that's what a lot of success tends to be. Maybe a lot of it's also materialistic, but life's far broader. What about your health? What about your relationships? Not just your relationships at work, your relationships out of work, the relationship with your partner, the relationship with your family. What about the experiences that you are achieving in life? Again, outside of work. What's happening about your learning? What do you feel you're contributing? Um, and what about your purpose and your fulfillment? So, well, when we look at those broader aspects of life, it could well be that we're highly successful, but in only one dimension, maybe career, while accidentally neglecting everything else.
And I was writing down while you were talking because I agree with all of it. I've watched it, I've seen it to some degree, I've done it to myself. And what I figured out a long time ago that I was probably suppressing or not paying sufficient attention to were two things. One, sense of humor, and the other thing was creativity. The more entranced or entrenched I got with being this high achiever, even if it was in my own mind, I realized that my creativity took a huge hit, and I needed to calm the heck down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious on what it took for you to realize that.
I needed to I had built a team. I did not treat them well because I didn't know how. I really didn't. Nobody taught me anything. I'm autodidact. I'm self-taught. I do have a computer science degree, but that doesn't really mean anything to anybody but me because I paid for it. It's mine. But I had a team that I was just, and I didn't realize that I was the bottleneck. I was, in a way, bullying them. I wanted them to do things my way. I didn't ask for feedback. I didn't say, listen, you guys are smarter and better educated on this particular part of, my team. And I knew at some level I could feel I was losing them. Nobody said anything, but they were doing their work, but that was it. They were just doing their work. In some ways that there was some malicious compliance going on, and I was catching it. And I realized that I needed to salvage this and apologize to them and ask them for their feedback and give them a lot more leeway than I had ever done before because, I'm an A-type personality. I can be kind of harsh. And I needed to step that back. I had a conversation with them. Many of them, this was many, many years ago, are still with me. But I had to understand that I was the bottleneck and I was not the boss. They're contractors. They don't work for me. They work with me. And they keep up on, certain aspects of the work that I do. in ways that I can no longer continue to educate myself with. I hire them for that. And once I got out of my own way, things got immeasurably better.
Okay, so your relationship with them changed and
Yes,
presumably productivity changed
it did.
and and some of the stresses went away. And uh, but what else changed? Because that's very, you could say, work related in, in the dimension of this is your career, this is what you do, this is your company, these are your people. But how did that affect everything besides that by getting this right?
I didn't realize that I was actually a creative. Now, how can you go practically your whole life and not understand how creative you are? I managed it. I'm an A type personality. I like things to be this way, and this way, and darn it, fix it. But I had to get out of that way. And then I realized, and I don't remember how I realized that I'm actually really creative. And once I tapped into that, I went, that was a whole side of my personality that I had to get in touch with. And that was my favorite part.
Okay, that's great. That's really, really great to hear. So it unlocks your creativity.
It forced it. I had to do it. I was walking around saying, bad Denise, but I got over it. And then honestly, things happen in your life when they're meant to show up. And all of a sudden, people that I really respected say, that is so creative, Denise. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Apparently, I had overlooked it or suppressed it or just seriously didn't recognize it.
Okay, so we we were touching on success and what success means, and um, so far on this back and forth, we've touched about your relationship with your people, and how getting that right leads to greater productivity and just better relationships. um, you accidentally uncovered, I'll say uncovered and unlocked your creativity and how you really really enjoy that. Um, but what else is there in your life that you feel is is a measure of success that isn't professional? Or do you only see success as professional?
Oh, no. No, no, no. My personal life is quiet. It's restrained. I am an introvert, very much an introvert. In fact, I've got a sign on my front door that says, if you weren't invited or I'm expecting you, don't knock or ring the doorbell. And I mean that. I can handle people for about 59 and 3/4 minutes. But once I decided that I didn't need to be gung ho, go, 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 build things, build this, whatever it is that I'm doing at the moment, I relaxed. And my relationships with my family and my very close friends, and it's a small circle, I admit that, and it's that way deliberately, but I relaxed, and now, because I relaxed, I have friends like you all over the world from this podcast. I mean, I meet people literally from all over the world. You guys send me your books. I have your book, Business as Unusual, sitting right in front of me. I get to sustain relationships with people I have never met physically and never will, and that's a big part of who I am now.
Okay, that's wonderful, that you have identified that.
Mm.
Now, a question that we should all ask ourselves, which is another danger that I believe that we fall into. It's like a trap, and that's the, trying to climb the career ladder, going after the next achievement, the next milestone, the next goal. Um, the danger is focusing too much on that and postponing other parts of our life. For example, I'll do that when, insert whatever it is you're doing. So I'll do that when I have more time. I will do that when I get another 1,000 subscribers. I will do that when I retire. I will do that when a something has to happen, when the business settles down, or when I'm less stressed. Um, they're all excuses of why we're not going to get down to what it was that we wanted to do that wasn't work, and that wasn't, um, this sort of trying to climb this achievement ladder, we keep putting it off.
We do, you're right. And one of the things that you and I have talked about either in the virtual green room or via email, you talk about from the career ladder to life portfolio. And I think that's important distinctions. And you just kind of mentioned it a little bit now. So what do you mean by a life portfolio? And I'm going to go back to what you just said, the things that we postponed. This is, well, June was wedding season pretty much across the world. And I always see these things. Well, as soon as we're married, things will be blah, blah, blah. No, they're not. You're practically married now. Why do you need to wait for that to be the happiest day of your life? I don't get that at all.
Okay, so really where I'm coming from is that life is is really about balance. And it doesn't mean spread your time equally across 5 different things or however many things you want to spread your time across. It really means consciously deciding what matters and whether your choices are reflecting that. So it's sort of linked to, I'll do that when I retire, I'm married, I
Right,
next month,
right.
whatever. All right. So, because success is not just reach your destination. Achievements are reach your destination because the achievement is the destination, right? But success is not just about that. It's really whether the journey itself is worth living. So the question that we must ask ourselves is, if we continue living exactly the same as we are today for, say, the next 5 or 10 years, will we like where we end up being?
I'm going to say no.
Hmm. Okay, you're going to say no. All
No.
right, and what makes you say no?
If we're not changing, growing, evolving, why are we here?
Absolutely, that's one aspect of it. Um, so by that comment, it seems to me that growing and learning and evolving is important to you.
Very much so. One of the things that I ask myself on a daily basis, and I do mean daily, years ago when I hired my very first business coach, and she was a lovely woman, but she was listening to me whine and snivel because, that's what I was doing. And she got very quiet, and I thought, oh, geez, this is the day she fires me up. It's not working. I knew it wasn't working. And she said very quietly, Denise, what are you tolerating? That changed my life.
Yeah, very, very insightful question. That um, sometimes we just put up with stuff,
We do.
Uh, and
And most of the time, it's us doing it, which is really annoying.
absolutely. So we are our own worst enemy when it comes to change. Um, and the older we get, they say, can't teach an old dog new tricks. The older we get, the more stuck in our ways that we become. I remember as a kid, as all kids, when we looked to the older generation, parents and beyond, we just say, "Oh God, they are just so old fashioned." And I remember saying to myself, "I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to be one of those older people that's old fashioned." And guess what?
You're sitting on your front porch with a rocking chair screaming, "Get off my grass." Yeah. See,
Not
that's what
not
I
quite
wanna do
not
when I'm
quite that.
100. I wanna sit on my porch, sit in a rocking chair and yell at everybody that goes by, but that's a long ways down the road.
No, I mean, the challenge is, the world changes. And, when, my kids laugh at me, because I'm so old-fashioned in some things, and although I'm a techie person, they see me so non-techie. Because they were brought up with tech. They're both Generation Z. Uh, so, it's sort of in their DNA, and I just can't keep up with them. Um, so I'm a bit, I wouldn't say I'm a technophobe, but I'm a technophobe because I can't go at the lightning speed that they go. I just find that amusing. But that loops back round to what we were saying, that we have to evolve and grow. Um, but to go back to the the point I said before. Success is not just reach a destination, it's whether the journey itself is worth living. S- So, with all the technological change that's been hitting us, especially with generative AI and it's accelerating and accelerating, um, do I want to go at that speed or do I want to go at a different speed? I actually want to go at a different speed. I don't think I've got the energy anymore to go at the blistering speeds that I used to before. And that's another aspect of success that I think may manifest itself later in life or if something happens to you. Um, I can't remember if I mentioned it on the last podcast that I did with you, but prior to COVID, I rarely needed sleep. And then when I actually caught COVID at the tail end of COVID, which manifested itself into long COVID. And it's the first time in my life really that apart from, man flu, which is different, right?
Yeah, I'm not laughing at you. I'm really not. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm laughing at myself and my whole family, if I when I'm sick and I got the man flu, the world is about to end. But during
That's
COVID when
when a
I got
wife who is smart locks you in another room and just doesn't listen to you anymore until you can walk out on your own.
Yes, yes, yes. Uh, and, yeah, I ended up with long COVID, and I need things like sleep now. I need a lot of sleep, 7, 8 hours sleep, and I still wake up tired. I've been waking up tired for ever since I've for the ever since I had COVID, so it's been like 4 years now.
Oh my.
Whereas before I never felt like that. So I don't want to do 100-hour weeks anymore. I'm trying to cut it down to as little hours as possible. I just don't have the physical energy, okay?
Oh,
I
I'm
have the mental
sorry.
energy, but I don't have the physical one. So
Right,
y
right.
so it goes back to whether the journey itself is worth living. So you adjust. I spend more time on trying to stay healthy. Well, I kid myself I do, but I'm trying hard because health is now important. 5 years ago, or a bit more than that, pre-pandemic, 10 years ago, health wasn't even on the agenda. What's the problem? And so as life evolves, our our priorities change. And that's why how we measure success is a very, very, very strange thing. Um, it's I feel is very, very unique. Um, and one of the issues that I see is that I don't know how many people are really thinking about what success means to themselves as opposed to being influenced by what society or what other people see as success. And that I see as a bit of an issue because if you're not thinking of success yourself and defining what does it mean to you, then maybe you're not really building your own life. You're maybe living a life or following a path that isn't really yours.
And I'm listening to that very carefully because I do understand it. Like the work that I do, when I first started my journey into never working in somebody else's office again, as I said, I'm an introvert and you don't want me in your office. I play with scissors. I don't play well with others. And if you want coffee, you can get it your own darn self. I'm not going to do it. But trying to explain to my family who had no idea what my career path on my own was going to be, God bless them, they were very patient and they didn't get really nervous, but they didn't understand it. But then I realized I didn't have to explain it. I just needed to live, survive, and do what I needed to do.
Okay, let's talk about this career ladder, which I have been throwing rocks at and
Not
literally
really.
tearing down. Yeah, and maybe I'll reframe it. Say traditionally, shall I say, the i- the idea is a career is a ladder. Is you join somewhere and you move up and you become more senior and you eventually retire. That model is completely broken.
It is.
Um, it's not how careers are now working. So maybe a different way. I won't. I'm going to assume it's a better way because the latter doesn't work. Is to think of a career or even your life really as a portfolio of experiences and capabilities, skills, relationships, and most importantly, experiments. Okay. So careers, they're going to become less linear. And because they're less linear, they're going to be so hard to predict. And I believe we're already in an era where not every move needs to be up. I remember, in my career, um, when I started off as an accountant, you always had to move up. It was hammered into me. Um, and I think COVID and the fact that entire industries were devastated and people lost whatever their career was, especially in things like food and beverage, hospitality, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Restaurants
Uh,
just disappeared overnight.
yeah, yeah. People were forced to find a new career path because you couldn't exactly go and apply for another job in another restaurant when the restaurants, were closed. And so a lot of people had to pivot and do something else. So those moves were definitely not up for a lot of people. They were sideways. They might have been a little bit, downwards. Um, so to just putting that aside, when we look at roles, when we look at these things, it's roles can be valuable because of what you learn, not just because of the title that you receive for doing it. It's the learning, it's the experience. So, and that learning is really linked to you building and accumulating capabilities. Because people aren't going to hire you in future because of your job titles. They're going to hire you because of what you know, what your skill set is, what your proven skill set is. And with this shift that we saw during COVID, when people were forced to look at different career paths, it became clear, and maybe it was a bit of an epiphany for some people, that their experience in one industry can become very valuable in another. So going back to those poor folks who were in the hospitality industry, which was so devastated during COVID, hospitality is all about customer experience. And customer experience is a very, very human thing. And people are moaning and complaining how AI is stealing their jobs or whatever. But customer experience, that human connection, that human relationship is uniquely human. And it is very, very, very transportable across most industries.
Well, and you and I have talked about AI. I love AI. I really do, but I am a techie person. I'm known as nerd in stilettos. No joke. But here's a question. If AI can increasingly handle information and routine tasks, what does become more valuable about being human? And here's something else, and this is just an aside. We haven't really talked about it, but if you're using AI badly, it's going to show up in your work. It's going to show up on your social media posts, and you're going to lose trust. So I guess my question here is how should we be paying attention to, let's just use Chat GPT as an example. What should we do to make it so we're ensuring that whatever we put out, whether it's a podcast, whether it's an article, whether it's just a comment on LinkedIn, how do we make sure that chat is speaking in our voice and we do sound human and sincere? This is a problem across the board. I know you've seen it.
Yeah. Um, it's ChatGPT, any of these generative AI tools, whether you use ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever, um, they're tools. Yeah. Um, it's a bit like if you're a hammer, not everything is a nail.
Right.
You can't
Right.
just bash everything.
Yeah.
And that's what's gone wrong with some people in their use of AI. Um, the AI, it is a tool. It can do a lot for us. Um, but the question we should be asking ourselves is when we use AI is what should I become better at
Mhm.
because AI exists? So yeah, I use AI a lot, but I have to I still, whilst I use more AI, just as I use more I have to use more of me as a human.
Exactly. And I
um,
think too many people don't really understand that you can't just take whatever slop they call it AI slop.
yeah,
Whatever
yeah,
is produced and you put it out there like it was your very own first thought,
mm,
it wasn't, and people
mm,
recognize that.
yeah. So it again, it's like all tools. It's how well you use them. Uh, and I don't think our conversation is about like how to use it really well. We can do that on another occasion if you want. Um, but it is about training the AI to sound like you. All right, but even if you do that, it's still not going to be you, and um, it doesn't have your stories. Okay, so to me, that's one of the biggest things that we have as humans. That's our humanness. It's our actual experience. And because we are unique humans, every single one of us, the 7 billion plus people on the planet, we're all unique and we've all experienced a unique life so far. And that life is stuffed full of stories that we as individuals have experienced. And that's what we can really infuse in what we do. So for me, when I write, it's very much stories, what I've experienced, what I've seen, what I feel when I'm experiencing and seeing stuff, which AI can't do for me because it's not me.
Right. I
So
agree
you
with you.
can mm, go ahead.
You have to be so I no, I agree with you, and I wanted to go you mentioned skill sets earlier, and I wrote that down,
Mm,
and then underneath it just now, I wrote lived
mhm,
experience because they're the same.
mm,
So, an
mm.
AI can help you articulate maybe better than you would normally, but it cannot give you your skill sets and your lived experiences, and I think that's where you're being human.
Absolutely. It also can't necessarily make decisions for you. Um, the you can use it to summarize things and give you the options from some mega long email someone sent you or report someone sent you, and it's great at summarizing what's in there and put it into simple words to identify. You know, I've got to choose between A, B, and C. It's wonderful for that, but it's still you as the individual who have to make that choice. But here's another aspect to consider, which is more of a life question. If AI is saving us hours every week, let's say it's saving us 10 hours a week, what are we going to do with that time? If all those productivity games are simply filled with more work, yes, we have improved efficiency and improved productivity without necessarily improving our lives. So again, we're focusing only on one life dimension and not the others.
And you had mentioned
So,
health, and you had mentioned family. So
mhm,
take those 10 hours and concentrate on walking the dog. Tai Chi, I don't know
absolutely.
what y'all wanna do. I'm gonna look at Tai Chi,
Mm.
but e concentrate on your health, concentrate on your
Mhm,
family, concentrate on
mhm.
the gaps that you may be feeling emotionally or energetically and start looking at that. But you have to be human to do that. AI cannot help you with any of that.
Yeah, so the real opportunity is to use technology such as AI to create more space for uniquely human work and ideally a better quality of life.
And That makes so much sense. It really does, and like I said, I love AI, and I use the heck out of it cautiously, very, very cautiously. And what I wanted to ask I wanna move around just a little bit. I wanted to talk about purpose, and we've chatted a little bit about that, but purpose doesn't always arrive with a lightning bolt, does it? I mean, how do we discover it through experience?
Well, as you say, it's not a lightning bolt. It doesn't suddenly, we don't wake up in the middle of the night necessarily, and we suddenly discover the one thing we're not we've been put on earth to do. I really don't think it works like that. I feel that purpose can emerge. It's usually gradual, and it's really through experiences, a lot of reflection and experimentation, and noticing the patterns in our lives. Um, some people are very really fortunate. They want to be whatever they want to be at a young age, and they go off and be that. I had some friends at school who always want to be a doctor, and yeah, they're great doctors today. I was never like that. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I blindly go into you know get on that career ladder, and I tried all sorts of things, and it took an awful long time to work out what my purpose was, and I actually only worked it out about, less than 10 years ago.
I am so
And
glad to hear you say that because we are under so much pressure, like, "What is our purpose? What is my why?" I don't
Mm,
know. It could be it's different
mm,
from yesterday, and that has bugged the heck out of me. I'm still not entirely sure what my purpose is. I
ooh.
really I don't know, but I'm not all that
Uh,
curious about it, to be honest.
you're
Maybe I
not?
should be.
Okay.
No, I'm really not.
Yeah. Well, some
Maybe
people
because I don't like to be told what to do. I fight with my nav system, and when somebody
Mhm,
seriously, I do. She says, "Go left," and no, you're not the boss of me.
mhm.
But so much is out there right now, and I keep stumbling across it, and there's no accidents there, so maybe I do need to pay attention, but what is your why? What is your
Mm,
purpose? And I'll just say, "Beats the heck out of me," and that's not actually
mm.
true, but that's my shrug the shoulders response because I don't wanna have to worry about it right now.
Yes, I agree. Some people become anxious or overly anxious because they think they're supposed to already know their purpose. And they weren't like some of my friends who wanted to be a doctor, when they're 10 years old, and they are today, decades later. Um, a lot of us aren't, are not that fortunate. We're clueless. Um,
I'm
but
glad I'm not alone,
mm,
so
you,
thank you.
you're, you are definitely not alone. I mean, I speak, I've been doing a series of talks at universities for the last few years, um, around personal growth in the digital age. Um, and I always ask those audience who's got a life purpose. And I kid you not, it's always less than 10% of the people in the room.
See, I don't doubt that. Yeah, that's kinda like when you're in church and the pastor says, "Turn to the person behind you and shake their hand." No,
Mhm,
I'm an
mhm,
introvert, I'm
mm,
not shaking any hands, but
mm,
it's
mm.
uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it depends, if you're trying to force it. But there are other ways to look at purpose. And yes, in my book, I have that whole chapter on purpose, which you don't have to read, Denise, otherwise I'll be telling you what to do.
I've read it. I've read the entire book.
You did, you did. Okay. Well, but so I really come from, what's giving you energy? What activities are giving you energy? You know, and I think from earlier in the conversation, it's some of the creative stuff that you do. I think. Where are people coming to you repeatedly for help? So, what are you the what things are you the go-to person for? And what contribution feels meaningful to you? And you already touched on it before, is the experiences that you've had that have a big impact on you. So, purpose can evolve as you evolve. So, it's really reflecting on things and saying, "Oh, these things give me energy. Those things drain me, so let's avoid them." People keep asking me about this kind of stuff, and I enjoy doing that and helping them or whatever. I get good buzz out of it. I feel I'm contributing in these areas. So your purpose can evolve. Maybe you just can't see it. Okay.
Kinda like
So
my
for me,
creativity, I didn't see it.
yeah,
I look
yeah.
back and think, "What the heck?" I was a jeweler.
Mm,
I could tell
mm,
you what color a diamond was from 4
mm,
paces. I
mm,
didn't think that was creative. Apparently, it was very creative. I made jewelry.
mm,
Creative.
mm,
I didn't catch it.
mm, mm. So purpose doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be world changing. Okay. My own thinking about purpose developed over time. As I said, the first life purpose I came up with was about 8 years ago. And then when I did my TEDx talk, or 2 years ago, I completely trashed my life purpose because as I was putting my talk together, I thought, "Oh no, I've been fed a lie," and and so I completely changed my life purpose again. So that was in the space of only 6 years, and no doubt it might change again as time goes on. So the way that I see purpose, the purpose of the purpose, is it's really just to act as a compass rather than a detailed map. Okay, you don't have to know your entire journey to know whether your next step feels aligned or not. But as long as you're feeling you're going in the right direction, so that that's what the purpose is going to give you. It's a bit like a pointing north on the compass. If you had a compass, that's what I feel it is. Because if you're not going in that direction, um, it's not going to feel quite right.
Rick, the last time you were here, we talked about adaptability. I don't know why I'm
Hmm.
stumbling on adaptability. And today we're talking about agency. So, in your opinion, what is the difference?
Adaptability is about responding well to what happens to us. Agency is really about recognizing that we can also make choices and actively shape what happens next. Um, so, really, agency is about making a choice, okay? Ideally, an informed choice rather than being forced to do something. And adaptability is like maybe a bit of a knee jerk action. Um, so adaptability is tends to be reactive. Something changes. Oh, got hit by COVID. The flight got cancelled, and
Right.
I adjust to it. Agency asks, what do I really want to create? Okay, we can't control the economy. Sometimes we can't control technology. If we're employed and we have a boss, we can't control our employer, and we can't control every single event around us. But we have much more influence over our own responses. We definitely have influence over what we learn and how we develop, and we have absolute control over our choices. Okay. Sometimes we defend ourselves and say we had no choice. We always have a choice. And one of the things I think I mentioned before, maybe on the last podcast, is I say the buck stops with you. Okay. And that's really about personal accountability. Ultimately, nobody is responsible really for our own development. We are responsible for the choices and the direction of our life. And so therefore the buck always stops with us. You know, just ask yourself, what am I waiting for somebody else to give me permission to do? You know, I have this thing with companies and employees. Sometimes I look at them. I said, right, what's stopping you from learning this? And the excuse is, well, I'm waiting for the company to teach me.
No.
Exactly. I mean,
That's
so
a
so
really long coffee break. You're not gonna get anything out of it.
I know, but a lot of people want, what you mean you want to be spoon-fed?
Right.
Aren't you an adult? No, you have the agency to learn whatever you want. I mean, you have a thing called a phone usually and access to the internet, and now you have generative AI. You've got access to, all the knowledge that ever was, literally. So what is stopping you? That's why I say agency is really asking you, what do I want to create? Because there are few barriers these days to finding out how to do stuff.
Oh, exactly.
Okay.
When I was a kid, the library was heaven for
Yeah.
me. I mean, that was my home.
Mm,
Libraries still exist. If you don't have anything but a
mm,
library card,
mm,
get your butt through that door.
mm. So, I mean, going back to the difference between adaptability and agency, adaptability may be more like, okay, what's going to happen to me because this has happened? Okay, the flight's got cancelled, whatever. As opposed to the agency, what am I going to do about what is happening? Okay, that's where the personal accountability really comes into it. And it's that personal choice. Okay, this has happened. What am I going to do? So agency really involves a lot of experimentation. Okay. It's not about making doesn't have to be making huge decisions. It could just be a tiny decision. Um, you know, and these small, deliberate choices, they accumulate. And sometimes the most important action is just creating more options rather than just choosing a final destination right now. So I
That's
think
brilliant.
all of this, this final point that you're making around adaptability and agency is really putting together everything that we've really touched on this podcast so far. Um, the previous themes that we touched on is purpose giving us a direction. Okay, accountability is creating the ownership. Learning builds our capability, and the AI is really providing us leverage. So ultimately, don't just prepare yourself for the future, participate in creating your own future.
Absolutely. And Rick, how do you decide what is worth learning when there is more information available than any one person could ever consume?
Well, we could get hung up on like, oh, what shall I learn? And like, you suddenly got 5,000 different things, and you can't make a decision. But
Yeah,
not
you
make a
should see the top
decision.
of my computer. I've got every tab imaginable open. It's scary.
But the thing is, not make a decision because there's too many things to decide on. Is make a decision not to do anything.
Yes,
So
paralysis. Absolutely.
so again, it goes back to the experimentation. So maybe it's all right. Let's just pick up whatever this topic one was, and I'll give it a go. And you give it a go, and you say, I hate it. So great. You've ruled that one out. Throw that away and go on to the next one. It's experimentation.
Really
That's it.
is. So, if someone listening today feels stuck in a career that just doesn't fit the life that they want, or maybe it never did, where should they start?
Okay. So maybe reflect on their life at the moment. Okay. So I think you just said on career. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So, what is it about what they're doing that they like? And what is it that they are doing that they don't like? And that's their current position, their current role, whatever it is. But go back further than whatever the current is, because you've got to go back further to find out. Let's say, all right, everything about my job, I hate it. It sucks, or whatever. All right, was it only this job? What about the previous job I had? Did did I also hate that? And the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. Um, y- yeah, I'm sure there's something that we enjoy doing, even if it's going all the way back to school and finding out what did I enjoy back at school. Because it's really, really important that we remember what it is we enjoy doing. Um, Again, I feel that we're indoctrinated to learn in a certain way and to keep on achieving and achieving and achieving. And that usually means that, when we're a kid and we're encouraged to go out in the woods and just go play, um, I think we cut into those times. If you look at kids today, I mean, how many people actually go out and play? Or does playing mean let's go online and play a game, an
Right.
online game or something? You know, I remember the days that, you know, fun was you just go out into the woods and you didn't have any devices or anything. All right. You just had fun playing in the woods or climbing a tree or whatever it was. You might say it's a bit basic, but, um, some of those things I can't climb trees anymore. I don't think I ever could. But, being out in nature is something I've actually discovered only since COVID, that I actually missed. Because in COVID, we were locked up in our apartment. You couldn't literally go out the front door. And, that went on for a couple of years on and off because I was in Vietnam at the time. And so the moment I was actually able to go out, you know, I wanted to go into a forest. I wanted to go into a park. I would literally want to go hug a tree, because I missed them so much. And even today, I've actually realized just walking, um, in the Alps, because I live in Switzerland, and fortunately, I can be walking in the Alps, up an Alp, within 5 minutes. It actually recharges me, um, and the feeling is so incredible because there's nobody around. There's no noise apart from animals and birds squawking or whatever. There's no beep, beep, honk, honk. I turn my phone off, so there's no one ding, ding, dinging me or emailing me. I just put it on fully silent and shut the damn thing off or leave it behind, um, and just be one with nature, be one with my own thoughts. And it's so relaxing and energizing. So to me, that's important. So going back to what I was saying before, when we were talking about adaptability and agency, um, it really is not just preparing ourselves for the future, but it's participating in creating our future. And in my future, I want a ton of time, in nature, walking or cycling or skiing, and not having to worry about work or an email or anything like that. So I like people to think about, what do you want your future life to look like? And if you want it to look like that, what responsibility, what actions are you prepared to take to build it from now?
And that is so important. I mean, it's one thing to jump out of bed and like my mother used to say, the devil said, "Oh crap, she's awake." It's probably a true story, I don't know. But I used to just get up and go until I dropped. And I gave it a lot of thought. I knew what I was doing. I was building, I'm not a silly person or a stupid
Mm,
person. I knew what I was doing, but I also at some level
mm,
knew that I was really neglecting the personal side of my life. And I had to kind of retrain myself to, make sure and I live in the country. I live in a very quiet little hamlet. It's a town now. I grew up in Southwest Louisiana, but it's quiet. And I bought this house because of that. But I have to tell you, when I make the decision to take my butt outside and walk with the dog, I do it early morning and late at night because of the humidity, as you can imagine. I don't take my phone. I don't want any, I will fall into what I call a walking meditation. And that's where I do a lot of my thinking and that's where I get a lot of my downloads. But if I miss a day or two, I feel it because all of a sudden I don't feel connected to nature. I don't feel connected to myself at some level. You have to take care of yourself. And sometimes that's always the last thing you want to do. Why we think like that, I don't know. But take care of you first, I think is what I'm trying to say.
absolutely. I mean, when you're young, you usually have good health, and it's only when you get sick and you get older and things creak and hurt when you wake up that you realize how important it really is. And unfortunately, so many people, in this modern world are sick. There are a lot of
I
there's a
know.
lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of diabetes, or you name it. There's a ton of stuff out there, and it can physically impair you.
It
Um,
can. I broke my
and
shoulders. I was telling you in the virtual green room, I
yeah,
shattered my shoulder in June. And I mean, it was bad. It's still bad. I'm still in a
mm,
sling, and that was in June. And I couldn't go out and walk. I could barely walk from here to the bathroom, to be honest. It
mm,
was rough. I could not walk my dog. I didn't dare let her, put a leash on her,
Mm,
let her tug me.
mm.
It impacted both of us.
Yeah, so I
Both of
mean,
us. It
the
wasn't fun.
taking something away from you, take away that simple thing, like your arm isn't broken, and now it is. So the fully functional use of your arm was taken away, and it stopped your walks in nature. It stops your creativity because you got it out of nature. It's all of those recharging moments because I'm sensing that those walks really recharge your batteries. Um, Taking all of that away, sometimes we don't realize how important something is until it's actually taken away. So I guess the message is going back to balance and look at your life and building your life. It's don't put stuff off. Health is
Exactly.
one thing. The other thing that you brought up right at the beginning was relationships. Um, yes, I'm an introvert as well, Denise, and I'm terrible, keeping in contact with people. But the thing that has triggered me to make an effort to reach out to people I know, like people I went to school with that I'm still friends with after we left school like 50 years ago, whatever it was. Um, my friends are the people I went to school with. They're dying off.
Oh, no.
Because I'm at that age. I'm literally coming up to official retirement age. I'm fortunate enough that I'm pretty healthy, but others were not so fortunate. And as you get into your 60s, as you get into your 70s, um, you like it or not, people that you know will start passing.
They do. I've
Um,
been seeing that in my
and
life too.
and are you going to regret? Are any of us going to regret not contacting that person who you knew and only finding out that they passed? And you couldn't have that extra conversation. You couldn't have that cup of coffee. You couldn't exchange those moments to reflect on the fun times or even the bad times together. Um,
And this can be at any age. You don't have to be in your
mm,
60s, 70s, 80s. My friend Jim Tunney, he was known as the dean of NFL referees. He passed away over a year ago now, and we talked almost daily. I worked with him for about 10 or 12 years, and he made a habit of calling people every day. He had about 10 people he was going to call, say hi. Some of them were very, very famous names. Some were just people that he knew, through church or through the work that he did as a speaker or as a referee. And he started finding out to his deep sorrow that, he would pick up the phone and say, "Hey, can I talk with?" "Oh, he died last week." And that just made him work harder at connecting with people.
mm. Yeah, it's that we shouldn't put it off. We shouldn't put this
No,
stuff off.
that's what I'm trying
Um,
to say, not elegantly, but that was what I was trying to say.
it's because by putting if we put something off and we didn't do it, it doesn't matter what our good reason was at the time. Um, what we want to avoid is regretting it.
That's
Um,
exactly right.
I mean, wasn't there that study of dying people, and they were asking them what their regrets were, and for so many of them, it was a relationship thing.
Yeah, it
They
wasn't
didn't
going
keep.
to a certain restaurant or taking a trip.
Yeah, yeah, and it wasn't because they didn't buy that car or that house.
Mhm.
It was because they didn't keep up to date with this person or they missed the opportunity. So it's missed experiences. So going back to our overall topic, we really need to build and construct a life. And our life is really a portfolio of different experiences, different knowledge, different skills that we can acquire, and it does not need to be linear. So the question we I want to leave people with is we really got to think of what life do I really want to build for myself? And what am I going to do next? What action step am I going to take to actually start building it?
And
Because
then start
ultimately,
now.
yeah, start now, because ultimately the buck always stops with us.
It does. I love that phrase. We are running out of time, and I wanted you to tell our listeners where they can connect with you, read your book, continue learning from you, and explore. We didn't get to mention this. Explore what you're doing with BAUU. You may have to give that a quick explanation.
Okay. A quick plug. All right. Best place to find me is you can just Google my name and see how wonderful my SEO is. And just to remind people, I'm the only person on the planet with my name, which is very unique. That's why you will always find me. You'll find me very active on LinkedIn. My website is my name, rickivanovich.com. And on the rickivanovich.com, there is my new BAU subscription, or BAUU, or business as unusual. Because since we last spoke, Denise, I've taken all my knowledge and I built it into a subscription website. That's everything I know. That's my book, all the books I've written, and I'm adding to it literally daily because there's so much that I've accumulated over the decades. I'm putting it all into one place. Um, so really, what is it? It's because I believe that life is messy, leadership is messy. I guess it is biased towards leaders, towards founders and CEOs, but that I see everybody as a leader. It's still about shaping your life. So there are a whole bunch of playbooks in there that are available that deal with all sorts of things that we're faced with all the time, like how to make better decisions and how to beat the firefighting, all that sort of work stuff. But on top of that, there's a lot of life stuff as well to teach you how to really build that portfolio and build that wonderful life that I want everybody to have.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you so much for being with us here today. I really appreciate it, and I love your book. And to our audience today, Rick Yvanovich, and it's spelled Yvanovich. It's pronounced Yvanovich, but there's a Y in front of it. We took our conversation about the new Renaissance one step further. We talked about the difference between building a career and building a life, taking ownership of our future, start now, and creating a life portfolio instead of simply climbing the traditional career ladder. We also explored AI, the changing workplace, the importance of continuous learning, and why purpose isn't something we necessarily are born with or even find. We have to go look for it. And sometimes it's just something that we build. So if this conversation has you thinking about your own next chapter, I encourage you to check out Rick's BAUU subscription, whereas he just noted he has brought his knowledge and his experience together in one place. So don't just adapt to the future, learn, grow, and take ownership of building it. I am Denise Griffitts, and this is your Partner in Success Radio. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to being with you the next time.